From the station that made country music famous, 650 AM WSM, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Hi, it's Charlie Mattos, and in this episode, we sit down with Country Music Hall of Famer and Grand Ole Opry star Vince Gill. Vince got up early on New Year's Day to help us launch Circle, our first broadcast of Coffee, Country, and Cody. On Circle, you can find your affiliate and all the information about the network at Circle All Access.
Take your memory with you when you go.
.650 AM WSM, WSMOnline.com, app download, and Circle Television. Our debut, an hour and 21 minutes in on Circle, at Circle All Access, WSMOnline.com. You can put your zip code in. It'll tell you the market affiliate that you can watch. And Vince Gill. Dance Hall music on 650 AM WSM. Already contacted WSM's feedback. Wanted to email you as well. Watching Circle, KTXA 214 Fort Worth, home to Billy Bob's, Dickey's Arena. George Strait opened a show there. Near Fort Worth, the Gaylord Texan Hotel. Seth got every possible sponsorship opportunity there was in there, and it's great to have
He's
you
a
watching.
NASCAR fan. You can tell. They work all the sponsors and change the hats on every shot. So,
good morning, Vince Gill. You're tailgating for the Predators game at Dallas today already?
I couldn't get a ticket, so I just came here. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us for this inaugural moment in WSM's 94-year history on Circle.
You betcha. You caught me in a weak moment, I guarantee you.
Well, I asked Charlie earlier. Charlie, you have the Eagles dates that Vince is a part of.
I do. So don't go back to the Ryman. You lived there for about a month, okay? But you're going to be in Atlanta very soon, February 7th, 8th, and 9th at State Farm Arena, and then 3 nights at historic Madison Square Garden in the middle of February as well.
Thanks. Yeah. I'll write that down.
And before the Christmas shows, though, you were touring off, doing your solo stuff off the release of Okie, the most recent album.
Yeah. I wore myself out this year.
Did you?
Yeah, a little too much, and I didn't realize I was as old as I am. So,
but still, he's
painful.
here.
Yeah.
Yes, Jo, a girl named Jo Smith, Vince Gill, Jo Smith.
Nice to see you, Vince.
My pleasure. You're sounding lovely.
Thank you.
It's really, this is neat. This is the debut of this whole new thing. And they said, when they asked me, they said, we think that you were, I think a lot of the things behind this are to maybe remember the Nashville Network. And
because the Opry's coming back to Circle.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I did the inauguration of the TNN show, of the TNN Network. And they did I was playing guitar for Roseanne back there.
About that.
And they had a big splash in several different cities and debuted the Nashville Network. So I was there when that one began, so I figured I ought to be here when this one does.
Perfect timing with Vince Gill, Country Music Hall of Famer, Grand Ole Opry star. I was thinking about first time.
I don't. Thank God.
When I heard it, I got the preview before the album came out, and I thought of Jenny.
Jenny Dreamed of Trains?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you and Jenny and her being at the Opry with you when she was just a little bitty thing in that song. And we were talking about Townes Van Zant's passing in 1997 on this date. He was 53 years old, and what he meant to Guy and Susanna Clark, and you were
all of us,
Rodney Crowell.
And train songs, you think about train songs and how long they've been since day one. Jimmy Rogers. Mm-hmm. You sit there and write a song like that and go, where did this come from? Well, you idiot, Jimmy Rogers. It's very easy.
Ken Burns, country music.
Mm-hmm. What a gift to the history of this music. I think getting to be a part of it and being entrusted to be kind of a confidant and I got to talk to them a lot about it, and what they did for us was astounding. They gave us some dignity, they gave us some respect, some grace, all these kinds of things that I think a lot of us that have loved this music our whole life always felt like we were the stepchild a little bit, and always felt like we were looked down upon at times, and we were, and just an amazing gift to all of us.
Not unlike being an Okie, huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is one of the things you wanted to bring out, the pride you have in your home state of Oklahoma, but that was not always a term of endearment.
It was never a term of endearment. The first time it was ever used was derogatorily, and when they
got to California?
Yeah, when they migrated out west and went to work and tried to feed their families, and because of the Dust Bowl and all that, they said, well, here come those damn Okies again. And I love what Merle Haggard said. He said, somebody said, those Okies, they won't work, and da-da-da-da-da. And Merle said, I don't remember ever meeting an Okie that wouldn't. It was so cool, his perspective of all of that, because that's exactly what happened to him. They went out there, and they were the ones that worked in those fields, and got a lot of respect for the mighty Merle.
Famously raised in a converted boxcar.
Exactly right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if the jazz guys 10 or 15 years earlier, when they got that same great Ken Burns treatment, maybe felt the same way too.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to feel respected.
Yeah.
A little bit, and I think that's what's at the core of that for us, for me anyway.
So I have to share this with you guys. I have not yet seen it. It is queued up for my weekend.
Well, tell Vince why you haven't seen it.
Well, so I've been in Somalia, working in Africa, until right before I got this job. But I have to tell you, you're so right about that respect. I have heard about this documentary. I knew it was coming out, and I was excited because I love Ken Burns, and I watched some of the Vietnam documentary. And so I've been on a lot of planes in a lot of far corners of the world. Just one example. I sat down next to this lady, this older lady, and conversation started happening toward the end of the flight. And she is a neuroscientist at the Rockefeller University in New York City. And she's like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I've been in Africa, but I'm in country music. You're in country music? Yes, from the neuroscientist. And she was like, wow, I just watched that Ken Burns documentary, and I couldn't stop. It was amazing. And that, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of that. Yeah.
I would have asked her what kind of strings she uses. What kind of strings do you use?
No, Vince Gill would have said, interestingly enough, I'm a neuroscientist, but I chose
Small
bluegrass first.
The banjo. But you think about, I don't know if we have time for this, but
We got about 30 seconds.
just along the racial lines that he showed our history was beautiful. And what we always felt was we never saw color. We never saw division. We just loved music no matter where it came from. And the fact that he pointed that out ever since the very beginning was powerful.
Vince Gill on Coffee, Country, and Cody, and on Circle, at Circle All Access.
Starting your day with a smile.
It's Bill Cody in the morning, 650 AM WSM.
With Charlie Mattos and a girl named Jo. That is Jo Smith, Crestview, Georgia, unincorporated. And a part of this whole thing on 650 AM WSM. Country Music Hall of Famer, Grand Ole Opry star Vince Gill, as we celebrate our debut on Circle, which started at 7 o'clock Central Time, and it will, weekday morning, 7 to 10 Central Time, at Circle All Access. And you can find out the affiliates, or you can watch by going to WSMOnline.com and typing in your zip code.
We gave some of the Eagles dates coming up, and you guys are going to be busy in the winter as it goes into the spring. Would you recount the first ever show at the big stadium out in California and
Dodger Stadium,
L.A. and then San Francisco? I think were the biggies.
I was terrified, and rightfully so. You should be.
But didn't you say it was good to be scared again a little bit?
I'm always just a little bit nervous that people aren't going to respond, no matter how many times you take a stage. But that one, because of what I was doing, I was replacing, in a sense, the founder of that band, and I knew a lot of people weren't going to be having it. And I was one of them, truthfully. I said, man, I don't want to hear anybody but Glenn sing Lion Eyes and New Kid in Town and all that stuff. And it was interesting to watch. I could feel it from the crowd. There's about 60,000 people there at Dodger Stadium. And I could feel their hesitance. They were all like just a little bit,
They had inhaled but hadn't
exactly,
exhaled.
Right. And I could feel it from them. It was bizarre. And I finished Take It to the Limit, and I could feel the whole crowd just go, oh, it's going to be okay. And I was too.
Good.
And I was okay after that too. But man, I was I'd worn really the funny part of the night was it's L.A., so it's nice weather, but I wanted to look cool. And so I wore one too many layers of clothes. And I was sweating like a hog. Like Purnell's old folk sausage. A nice big roll of sausage. Yeah. And my God, I couldn't. I just was like trying to get those clothes. I was sweating and I was nervous. And it was hysterical.
Which beach community did you live in when you were in Los Angeles?
Hermosa Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I lived for a little bit in Thousand Oaks before I came here.
Wow.
Jo Smith, a girl named Jo, a part of what we're doing on Coffee Country and Cody, and not only all over the world at WSMOnline.com as you listen or stream or the app download, but now on Circle Television.
Yes. Vince and I were just talking about how lovely it is to have the Ken Burns documentary and how Nashville and, country music has this newfound respect. And that was definitely apparent last night with all the New Year's Eve performances. It was sort of like, they're in L.A. and they're in New York, and those are the cool places to be, but everybody wanted to be in Nashville. Like, they sent Don Lemon to Nashville, and they would be talking about what's going on in New York, and they'd be like, but in Nashville, what's going on? They wanted to know. It was really cool.
Well, didn't you say that Stevie Nicks was the number one trending social media item as it related to Keith, being with Keith Urban last night?
Performances, and yes. So they're like number 3 or 4. The American Embassy situation is trending pretty high as well. Other things are going on out there, but yes. Nashville's always near the top these days, which is really neat.
So, Vince, how did the phone call or the conversation start that worked into your becoming a part of the Eagles?
Well, I'm not exactly sure the real chain of how it unfolded. Irving Azoff, who manages them, and I went to do the Kennedy Center honors that they were given, I think, the beginning of 2017. And I was singing those songs, and I sang a couple things for them at their honoring, and I think that's when Don and Irving both said, that's who we need, if we're going to do this. And I think they were really probably not even 50-50 about going on and continuing. But with myself and Deacon, I think they came to the realization that these songs are maybe more important than we are. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the truth, and nobody sings anything better than the original, in any shape or form. And that's the case with these guys. I don't sing like Glenn did, and I don't sing like Randy Meisner did, but I sing like I do, and it's a great song, so it should live on, and it will.
You told me a story, and this is beautiful, and I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but that Joe Walsh's wife came to you and told you how much he loved to hear you sing.
Yeah. And
how emotional it made him to hear you sing, and particularly when it started happening live, like we talked about with that first show at Dodger Stadium.
And that's neat because I've been equally as connected to them. Glenn and I were great friends, and we were both managed by Larry Fitzgerald in the years that the Eagles were broken up. And Glenn was doing his solo career. My manager, Larry, took care of Glenn.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah, and I knew we did that tribute record to them, and I met them back in 1980 when I was living in California. And Don pulled me aside, and he said, you're the only guy I would have wanted to continue this on with, and it meant a lot to me. And it's been amazing. I worked on Don's records. Joe and I had gotten together and written some songs together. Joe and I wanted to do a kind of an all-star band like the Traveling Wilburys and go out and play, and we just hit it off because we both love playing guitars. And I met him, I think, at the Eric Clapton Crossroads shows in Dallas in 2004, and we hit it off. And Timothy sang on the version I did of I Can't Tell You Why. And so there was a real connection with all of those guys. And I don't know, it's something I couldn't have dreamed up. I would have never thought about, hey, it would be cool to be an Eagle. I always, in my life, I thought, I would have been a cool Eagle, maybe, but I'm just 10 years too young. Age isn't going to make this work. But
well, there's a song you made a reference earlier talking about the Ken Burns documentary, and one of the things it brought out is the breadth of the racial influence that we had that a lot of people didn't know, particularly black and white.
Sure.
In the early days of country music. And you've got a song that references that you have written and is on the new album, Okie, called The Price of Regret.
Yeah. Just once again, this record at my age at 62, it was a somewhat of a reflective record and an honest record. and I wasn't afraid to tackle some subjects that really are somewhat taboo in a sense. But if you can have a conversation about a tough subject and have it with respect and have it with non-judgment and have it with a little bit of grace, we could do a lot better, about fixing some things, I guess. But that's what this song about. It's just looking back at life and owning your own what, and
I love
messed up
that.
a little bit.
It's on Vince Gill's new album, Okie. Here's Price of Regret. Vince Gill. It's on his new album, Okie, Price of Regret. You heard it on 650 AM WSM, WSMOnline.com, our app download. We're everywhere, including Circle. We're on television again, at Circle All Access. And type in your zip at WSMOnline.com. It'll tell you the affiliate in your market area. A girl named Jo Smith. Yes.
Yay.
You're going to do what?
We're going to play one of my songs coming up soon off my new record.
What's significant about it as it relates to in-studio guest, perhaps?
Oh, Vince Gill singing harmonies on it. It's hard to believe.
Big shocker.
And we'll give Vince a chance to calculate this, just how many background vocal sessions he has done in his Hall of Fame career. That's coming up.
Bill Cody in the morning.
It is 9 o'clock in the Central Time Zone, and we've been on the air, our debut, for a couple of hours on Circle. That's our new TV opportunity for you to watch as well as listen all over the world at WSMOnline.com and the app download. And, of course, the terrestrial signal. We referenced that historic tower featured in Ken Burns' documentary earlier. It still stands and is operable at 650 AM WSM. That's amplitude modulation. And now on Circle Television, Circle Television Network, at Circle All Access. Find out where you can watch by typing in your zip code at WSMOnline.com. A girl named Jo Smith, new to Coffee, Country, and Cody, a part of this family, but you've been a part of this family since you won a talent competition to catch people up. It was called Tootsie's to the Ryman, and there was a Tootsie's audition, and Jo came in. I could see her walking through the crowd when I called her name to come up to perform. Talk about the cattle call mentality.
Yeah, it was a cattle
and
call.
this glow followed this girl all the way to the stage where she performed, "I'm a farm girl living in a MySpace world." My, how technology has changed.
It has, and that lyric, that brilliant lyric, it evolved over time to Facebook when Facebook became the thing, and then it just kind of drifted off into history where it'll stay.
But you won, and you got to
did.
open for Glenn Campbell at the Ryman
And
Auditorium.
I think what saved me was that had written Wyoming at the time, and I think I played that. So I think it counteracted Farm Girl in a MySpace world.
And I remember you early on after writing it, playing this song that we're going to hear in this studio, sitting right where you're sitting now with your guitar, just you and your guitar, and you're absolutely fearless. Singing this song called Wyoming. So tell us where it is today in 2020, the new decade and the new year.
Yeah, so I'm a total imposter on this show. I'm an artist. I've lived in Nashville for 15 years, and Wyoming was the first good song I wrote. And and it's withstood the test of time. You know, you don't get these special songs that often, and I've always loved this song. And this is what I'm supposed to be bringing to the show. It's a little insider peek. And you know, this song helped me get multiple record deals. And then it would just go on the shelf, which is one of the hardest things about being an artist. You know, you kind of give up somewhat of your creative control, or something that you love just isn't commercial enough or whatever. So I never would get to put Wyoming out or record Wyoming. But now I'm self-funding a record, and I do what I want. So I recorded Wyoming, finally, and I have the full fiddle intro just made for radio, because, you know, radio loves that. Long fiddle intro. And Vince Gill singing harmonies. So what more can I say?
How did you come to sing on it? She just called
Just
you?
asked, you know.
Yeah, they told me, they said, you know, Vince would be perfect on this. And I'm like, well, Vince is just perfect on everything, but yes, he'd be perfect on this. And Vince was a part of my Opry debut, so there's sentimental history there, and I grew up listening and singing harmony. I learned to sing harmony by singing with Vince records.
And you said to me yesterday off the air, you said, oh my goodness, GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Yes, and
That's what he meant to you.
I hate to, it might make you uncomfortable, so I apologize in advance. But like, you know, Vince Gill and Vince Gill's harmonies, they are iconic, and to a certain point, you take them for granted after a while. But he sang on this, and I was like, this is going to be cool and sentimental, and I can't wait to hear it. And I pushed play, and I'm looking forward to it. And then it was like, oh, this is why he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. It was just perfect. It was not too much. It was just a little bit, and it was just something it was just great.
Vince, you told me once
That's it,
that
I'm done.
your gift, with all the musical gifts you have, but the gift of your ears, God gave you great ears, and that's allowed you to sing harmony. How many sessions, background vocal sessions, would you say?
I'm over 1,000 artists, in these 45 years or however. I made my first record 45 years ago, and I love it. I've always loved. I was never really that keen on being the guy up front. I love the process of being part of the fabric. And I always wanted to be Phil Everly, or I always wanted to be Don Rich. I always wanted to be the harmony singer, never the lead singer. Then I got in the bands and go, well, you sing better than everybody else. You got to sing lead. That's okay. But I was really taken with this song, and people will call and say, hey, will you sing on something? And I said, yeah, of course. They said, well, let me send it to you to see if you like it. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. I said, that's not my job to A&R what it is that you're passionate about and what you love. I said, I'll do whatever you need me to do to try to make this better. And so I just have always done it. And everybody, they gave me grief in the days that I was really killing it, and they said, you don't have to do that anymore. I said, you're missing the point. I love doing this, and that's why I keep doing it. It's if you can have a small part of making a record better, why would you not ever want to do that? And I love it. Great history of singing on so many well-known people's first records, and I just love doing it. And I've just been given a gift that can hear to blend and hear to match and phrase. The craziest of all was, you have time for this, or you need to?
Yeah, I think we have time.
Was Fred Foster was producing a Willie record, where Willie was doing a tribute to Ray Price, and the Time Jumpers did half the record. We finished it all triple fiddles, and everything was great, and the shuffles felt great. And then Fred called me and said, I need you to do one more thing. And I said, what? He said, I need you to do some harmony on about half of these songs. And I went, are you nuts? I said, that's not possible. He says, you're the only man that could do it. And so away I went. I'd do about 3 words, and I'd go, okay, let me figure this out, and do about 2 words. And it was a great exercise. And now it just sounds like Willie's had Don Rich with him his whole life,
So you got Willie and Merle and Ray. Wasn't that it?
Yeah, I sung with all of them.
The last of the breed. That Fred Foster, country music, fellow member of the Country Music Hall of Fame for you.
Good man.
And when he was inducted, I believe, didn't you induct him? And you shared some stories of what happened to those tapes, you said.
Oh, my God. Should I tell this one? I'll probably give a lawsuit over this one. Okay.
And then we're going to feature the world premiere of Joe's Wyoming with Vince Gill.
Okay. Well, we back in the 80s, I made some records that were really bad. And I went in with Fred because we were great friends, and he produced 4, 5, 6 songs on me, and they were horrible. They were just horrible. And so after my career took off, RCA had all these old masters, and they were putting the same 8 songs together in a different package every 6 weeks so they could sell a boatload of records. And somebody called from the record company and said, hey, you recorded some sides with Fred Foster. And I said, oh no, and I hung up the phone. And I called Fred and I said, Fred, you know how much I love you, don't you? And he goes, absolutely. I said, well, I'm kind of hitting a hot lick right now, and RCA wants to see if they can find those tapes of those things we did together. And I said, and I know that those things aren't very good, and I'd really prefer that they didn't come out, And he said, say no more. Oh. And he took care of whatever. Even if he had them, he made them disappear. I owe him.
I still love that line. He made them disappear.
I had visions from The Irishman. He throws those guns into the ocean. Yeah.
And for those of you who are new to town pursuing a music career, there will come a time when you'll look back at your early days and want it to disappear. Perhaps you'll be as lucky as Vince Gill was. Wind up in the Hall of Fame and as an Opry star.
Fred Foster could have helped Richard Nixon a lot back in the day, come to think of it.
Vince Gill, he sings harmony on Jo Smith's Wyoming. The world premiere is coming up on 6:50 a.m. WSM Radio and Circle TV Network at Circle All Access.
Springer Mountain Farms Plus.
Worldwide, WSMOnline.com. Our app download here at home at 6:50 a.m. WSM and new on Circle Television at Circle All Access. Type in that zip code when you get to WSMOnline.com and it'll tell you who the affiliate is in your market area. And joining us as a regular on the show on Coffee, Country, and Cody is a girl named Jo, and you can find her at Jo Smith Music. And your world premiere of this song, you will
the
waited
world
so
premiere.
long for this moment.
15 years. And here it is. This is Wyoming featuring Vince Gill.
Who's in studio this morning. Hard for me to tell which is more emotional, watching Jo Smith interact with her mom on social media over there through texting, or Vince tearing up as he listened to the world premiere of Jo Smith's Wyoming, on which he did background vocals. That was sweet, as people watch on Circle this morning and got to hear that special song. Was there a cowboy in Wyoming one time, Jo?
No, that one was made up. I should have said yes. I should have said yes. I ruined that moment. I should have been like, yes, and I still love him. I ruined it. I'm learning. I'm still learning.
If there was, he's an idiot. I'd tell him to his cowboy face.
So in those moments when you put those headphones on, Vince, and you turn that up and you listen and you get emotional, what are you hearing? What are you thinking?
Just how much we need that kind of stuff.
Aww.
Who played the fiddle intro, that lonesome West Texas Western fiddle that is missing for a lot of people so much in country music today?
I can't talk right now. Stuart Duncan, who Vince met when he was 13.
Yeah, Stuart played on Go Rest High, and he played on a million of my records and played in my band. And when I was 19 and moved out to California to play with Byron Berline, Stuart was the whiz kid fiddle player out there, along with Allison Brown, the great banjo player. And I've been friends with Stuart for my whole life. I knew it was him.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Like Willie's guitar. Yeah. Some people just have a sound and you know it when you hear it.
I mentioned off the air, my wife and I went to one of the matinee Christmas shows, and you just referenced Go Rest High. We got to hear the final verse that's been added. It was magical. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I wrote a final verse after 25 years to Go Rest High. Pretty sweet.
For people who haven't heard it. How does it end now versus what people know?
You know, as a songwriter, as I sang that song at every hillbilly funeral, and over my lifetime.
Well, you and Eddie Stubbs were a team, weren't you?
That's
Package
right.
deal.
Eddie said to me, we'd been to about 3 country music, giant stars funerals in about 3 or 4 week period. He eulogized, and I sang Go Rest High, and he'd eulogize, and I'd sing Go Rest High. He came over, put his arm around me, and said, Hoss, he said, I believe you and me are going to bury them all. Said, let's do it.
I cannot remember who had passed, but someone had passed, and Eddie did not do the eulogy, and Bill asked him about it. He goes, these things happen. Not that the person had died, that he didn't get to do the
I think it was Merle.
It was
because Marty did the eulogy.
These things happen.
But just after singing that song my whole life, it never felt complete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I never felt like that the end got to be,
So the original catalysts were your
verses.
brother and Keith Whitley.
Yeah. And then the last verse is, you're safely home in the arms of Jesus. Eternal life, my brother's found.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a minute.
You're fine. Take your time.
The day will come, I know I'll see him in that sacred place on that holy ground. I had to wait for a long time to get that.
When did you actually write it? When did you?
A couple months ago, and I saved it to debut at the Ryman because the Ryman's so special to me.
You said it's the most spiritual place that you've ever been, and there's something about.
There's been 2 times I think I've felt in my life that I've been whatever they call slain in the spirit or slayed, whatever.
Yeah.
And they were both there.
Wow. Wow.
Interestingly enough,
not so much in the church house, but at the Ryman.
Wow.
And the Ryman is a church house.
Yeah, I was going to say, which is what happened to Captain Tom Ryman when he went to a tent revival service there in May of 1885 and was converted. He didn't go there because of his Christian beliefs and the way he was living his life. He went there to heckle with some of his riverboat buddies.
Wow. No, I mean, when that was, what did you call it? Slain in spirit?
Slain in the spirit.
I mean, it happens. It comes out of, I've told people about that. It happened to me in my little church back in Arlington, Georgia. And I mean, I was sitting on the back row during a passion play or something. And I'm like, counting the ceiling tiles as usual. And
how old are you?
I'm 9.
Okay.
And it's just out of nowhere. You don't make it happen. You don't, I mean, it's true. I wish it for everybody.
The Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit.
The Holy Ghost.
Moving in
You
here.
heard that old term, Holy Ghost revival. Well, that's where it comes from.
I was saying the 2 times in the Ryman I felt that was the first time I ever played in there, was taping a TV show of some sort for Garrison Keillor. And I played a song, just me and the guitar in the room, no mics or nothing. And I felt my body just get flushed, and I wasn't sick. I didn't have the flu or anything. And it just was like, I don't know what this is, but it's pretty intense. And then the night Don Sears passed away, I was singing at the Ryman.
Oh, you got it. Yes. Tell their story.
It's a good morning.
2020 is strong.
Well, I knew she was, knew she was sick.
And for those of you who don't know, Dawn had cancer.
Dawn had cancer.
Been fighting it for a couple of years?
Yeah. And she had a record deal in the early 90s, and country music missed the boat. That's one of the greatest singers that ever lived.
Amen.
They just missed the boat. And she sang with me for 25 years in my band, and then the Time Jumpers got her singing with them, and I just loved hearing her sing. And I was doing one of the Christmas shows at the Ryman, and I felt her at the moment flash through the Ryman. I tell everybody, I said, she's either coming through to say goodbye or give me the finger. Maybe both.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, not mutually exclusive. That's the beauty.
We've got Vince Gill, a country music Hall of Famer and a Grand Ole Opry star, and one more Grammy than anybody. He's in the studio with us this morning, and he's got yet another Grammy nomination. And I keep thinking, this is the new year, and the Grammys will be here before you know it. And we'll continue with Vince. A girl named Jo Smith in studio. You got to hear the world premiere of Wyoming that Vince sang background vocals on. Charlie Mattos, I'm Bill Cody. Find out more. Circle Television, @Circle All Access. Vince Gill, 6:50 a.m. WSM and WSMOnline.com. Our app download. Circle Television, our debut this morning. Hour 3 of 3. Working our way through it @Circle All Access. Coming up, by the way, at 10 o'clock, at 10 o'clock when we finish here, will be Toby Keith on Soundstage.
Yeah, Toby Live.
His Soundstage, that series premieres on Circle. Again, @Circle All Access.
So if anyone in the listening or viewing audience were contemplating double knee replacement, your mom doing consulting work now, or
That's great that you know that. That's really funny.
Vince in
You've retained
studio.
some really useless information.
yeah, that's mind for minutia. That'll get you a career in radio right there.
And a girl named Jo Smith in the studio, and you heard Vince singing on her single Wyoming a little bit earlier. So catch us up on your 94-year-old mama. Shares a birthday with WSM almost. An October birthday anyway.
Yeah, and she's 1925 when the Opry started, but she's 94, and we just went back, and I took the whole family. I took Jenny and Josh, her husband, and 2 grandkids, and Amy and myself and Karina, and got on a bus and went back to spend a couple days and eat some good Mexican food and let my mom see the new baby, so she got to see Everly, and that was great. Jenny named that her daughter Everly because that's what I called Jenny when she would sing with me, and it was the first time in my life I got to hear that blood harmony, like brothers and
yeah.
family members and stuff. And so I always called her My Little Everly.
Yeah.
A long time ago, and she named her girl Everly. So we had a great time. Mom's doing good.
Did she still live alone?
Yeah,
Or did,
in the same house I grew up in since I was
Wow.
4. She's been there for 58 years, 50 something like that.
Wow.
Is this Jareen? That's her name.
Jareen, yeah.
And the only other Jareen I know in the whole wide world.
Keith Sykes' wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there is
Songwriter.
another.
Yep, there's another one. Yeah.
We have a Jarita in our family, but not a Jareen.
And you have a Vinola, too, don't you know?
A Vinola.
Yes.
My grandmother
Yeah.
on my father's side. Thelma Vinola.
I had that, but it cleared up.
So what's your mom's full name? Jareen, is that middle?
Mildred Jareen Kackleman.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a pretty good name.
Yeah. that's a
Did
good
she
one.
sing? Did she? Wait,
No,
where-
she played the harmonica a little bit.
Okay. And your dad was the musician in the
Yeah,
family.
he sang and played a little bit. My grandmother played a little bit, and my grandmother's brother played a little bit, and so there was always some music around.
Wasn't Kansas your mother's home or her
Yeah,
people?
she grew up in Kansas.
Now, where did she meet your dad, Stan?
Probably at the pool hall. I couldn't back that up.
Anytime Vince does anything related to his dad, his hands already come to his mouth. These two fingers, for those of you
No,
watching
I'm
on
not
television,
sure.
like he's got a cigarette in the middle there. Yeah. And then Vince's voice gets that gravel in it, and it's on, baby.
Oh, but the angriest I can remember my dad is when Lucky Strike started putting filters on the thing. You know?
Yeah. My house was like a pool hall.
But he also influenced you to the point that the autobiographical story, The Key to Life.
Yeah, I think so. I wrote that song in the year he passed, and he loved music, and he just adored it. And there's so many really neat connections. There's a great story.
And he was an attorney?
Attorney and a lawyer.
Okay.
I mean, you can't be both. And a judge. I meant to say
A judge, yeah.
A lawyer and a judge. But he had a deep connection. So I think he got to live a lot of his dreams and a lot of his love for music through me. Mm-hmm. And when I started playing the Opry, and one night I sang The Bird of Paradise with Jimmy on stage, and because my dad and I used to sing that when I was a little boy. And my dad called and he said, "Well, you finally made it, boy. You sang The Bird of Paradise with Tater." So that was a rite of passage. But then fast forward a few years later, my dad came to visit, and he said, "I'd sure like to meet Jimmy." So I took him into Jimmy's dressing room, and they met. And my dad said, "What I can't find a record of Plain Old Country Boy." And I've always loved that song. Jimmy said, "Give me your address. I'll send you a copy." Aww. So he sent him the record, and. Golly, here I go again. But at my dad's funeral, for no other reason, I knew that story and I played that song. And then my dad's brother, got up and spoke right after I played that song, and he was like, "I can't believe you played that song. Just can't believe it." He said, "That's the first record we ever got as boys." So
wow. And was he raised in
life's
Oklahoma?
good.
Yeah. As we go to the break, Vince Gill, Country Music Hall of Famer, Grand Ole Opry star, our debut on Circle. Exciting stuff. Jo Smith is a part of the Coffee Country and Cody family
I'm hanging
now.
in there. This is a good day.
You can't pry that smile off her face this morning, and getting to share Wyoming, her song that Vince sang background vocals with the world this morning. Circle at All Access. Vince in studio this morning. Vince Gill, Toby Keith. I want to talk about me. He grew up in what, Moore,
Oklahoma, yeah. I was born in Norman. They're connected now, but
suburban,
yeah.
Oklahoma City. And Toby, Soundstage, Toby Keith at 10 o'clock on Circle. That's 15 minutes from right now as you watch Coffee Country and Cody and listen all over the world. Vince Gill in studio with us as an Eagle, February 7th, 8th, and 11th. Got a 3-night run in Atlanta coming up in the new year. And then Madison Square Garden in New York. You got a 3-night run there in mid-February. And then Dallas, Texas on February the 29th.
We waxed poetically about the Ryman earlier this morning. When you step on stage at Madison Square Garden, I mean it's had a few incarnations, but that's a place with some history too, right?
Yeah, think about the Knicks.
Yeah. Think about something else. You'll have a better show.
And you know what? We were just talking. I said, when you played Eric Clapton, you did the first guitar festival out there. That was at the Cotton Bowl, wasn't it? And Vince had all these great Cotton Bowl memories talking about the Predators playing hockey out there today.
great place. The fair was there, and we used to go to the OU Texas game there, and good spot.
I saw you in a crowd shot the other night. They reran on PBS.
I know what you're going to say.
They reran a Chet Atkins special.
Yeah. Chet and Mark Knopfler.
Yeah. And there was a young Vince Gill sitting in the audience watching a Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
And what do you remember about that night?
Just how much I adore Mark Knopfler and what he does, and he was kind to me and offered me a job at one point. And but Chet was my little kid guitar hero, and the fact that you never could dream that you're going to grow up and meet your hero. And he was nice, and his wife Leona was crazy about me, and I popped out of her cake for her 80th birthday or 70th. I don't remember which one it was, but we to surprise her, I popped out of a cake and almost killed her. It scared the hell out of her. But I adored that man, and he came to our wedding when Amy and I got married, and just crazy about him.
You talk about Amy. Corina is 18 years old now. And you say maybe by far the most naturally talented of those of you in the Gill clan who have decided to take up music?
She just has a gift. There's something special about her. It's, that listening to Joe's song, the thing about music for me is I want it to take me somewhere. That's why I love music, is because it has emotion in it. Not because it's impressive. I'm not really knocked out by something that's impressive. Somebody that can sing me 100 runs and 1,000,000 notes, and somebody can play me 1,000,000 notes. That never does anything to me. But if a song takes me somewhere, the compelling nature of a voice will take me somewhere. That's what music is. That's what people don't. I don't think people understand that your voice is either interesting or it isn't. To that one person. You may love certain singers that I don't, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. Just because the sound of what they do doesn't speak to me, but certain sounds do, and you can't pick and choose what they are. But that's what's so cool about Joe's song, is it takes me somewhere. And I think back to songs like "The House That Built Me." I always liked Miranda's music, but that song's the one song that stood out. That went, now that does something to me. It makes me feel something.
Yeah. You hang out at Nashville and Green Hills.
That's where I'm headed.
Because you've told me many times as we walked out of the opera together, hey, you're my soundtrack on the way to get breakfast. And Vince now has Jo Smith, just so you know, not just a Western omelet, but what do you call the new omelet selection over there? The country and Western omelet.
And Western omelet.
I don't know what additional ingredients you get with that, but there was a guy over breakfast that came up to you, and I'm talking about Last Bad Habit. Was it at breakfast and a guy gave you this line and you asked to use it?
He did. And I was sitting there and I said, "Man, what are you up to?" He said, "I'm doing pretty good." I said, "I'm about down to my last bad habit." And I said, "What did you say?" He said, "I'm about down to my last bad habit." And I said, "Dude, that's a song." Yeah, he said, "It is?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you mind if I go home and write that?" And he goes, "No, have at it. Ain't nobody buying your records anymore."
And on that album, Down to My Last Bad Habit, this is a Charlie Mattos request here from Vince Gill this morning on 650 AM WSM.
Well, you got to love a song that in the opening verse references bluegrass, Little Jimmy Dickens, and fried chicken. And we get all three.
And my granny, that's really my granny.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was her name.
Me and My Girl, Vince Gill on 650 AM WSM. And you're watching on Circle Television this morning.
Some bluegrass picking, love Little Jimmy Dickens, Granny Lucy's fried chicken on a Sunday afternoon. Just putting off a Monday, my baby right beside me.
Nod to the high lonesome and Big Mun there at the end on Me and My Girl. That's Vince Gill.
That is right, boy. That is powerful.
650 AM WSM. Joe?
Vince Gill, what is your favorite Eagles song to play?
Desperado.
Oh, okay.
Hands down. I asked Don when I joined the band, I said, "Okay, what's the first song you and Glenn ever wrote?" He said, "Desperado." And I go, "No way. You had to have written 5 or 6 crappy songs."
Exactly.
He started laughing. He goes, "No, that was the first song we ever wrote." I said, "Boy, you talk about meant to be. That's one of those partnerships that's life-changing."
Yeah.
As is yours with us here at WSM and the Grand Ole Opry. Vince Gill, thank you for coming and being a part of our debut on Circle Television.
Yeah, congrats.
All right.
Great to see you again.
Thank
buddy.
you, Vince. Thank you for everything.
Go get that country and western omelet, all right?
I'm on my way.
And enjoy those Predators this afternoon at the Cotton Bowl of all places, playing hockey. With Joe Smith, Vince Gill, Charlie Mattos, I'm Bill Cody. This is Coffee, Country, and Cody from Nashville.
Thanks for listening to our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Our digital program director is Jay Patrick. Our digital producer is Haley Hall. Marketing and promotions director, Nicole A. Judd. General manager of 650 AM WSM is Chris Kulik. I'm Charlie Mattos. We'll see you next time on our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast.